Hey! You have found your way to our virtual gathering. We are so glad to have you with us this morning. It is going to be an amazing morning.
Yes, no matter how you found yourself here, we want to say a massive welcome to Light Church. We are so excited that you are here, and we want to connect with you this morning, whether that's using the live chat or you head to light.church/connect and fill out a connect form with us to get to know us, or maybe you even connect via prayer. You can head to light.church/prayer and fill out a prayer request form at any point during this morning's gathering.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if you are in a Light Church life group, I want to encourage you. That is the place where you can send in some prayer requests as well. You can get some pastoral care. Really make use of your life groups. They are super important. But coming up today, I'm super excited. We have our fifth value. We will be a church that makes kings and queens. It is going to be a day, my friends. So I've got some people helping us communicate this message this morning. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you've got to bring and what they've got to say as well. It's going to be good. But yeah, if you are maybe 11 years or younger, or you know someone who is, then make sure you are checking out our Epic online videos. Epic is our kids ministry here at Light Church, and they've got their own YouTube channel. So on YouTube, type in Light Church Epic Online, head there, check out those videos. There's some amazing content on there for your kids or kids you know.
Definitely. So that is everything from us right now. We've got about 30 seconds just before we jump into worship. So this is your moment. I encourage you, get your phone out, invite a couple friends or family members or co-workers. Do not underestimate the importance and the amazing potential that lies in a simple invite. It could change someone's life forever. So these 30 seconds are yours. We will see you on the other side.
See ya.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire, another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden of where another died for me. There was another in the fire. Dead left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I will bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody, and the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, 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 and I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between we're sin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us.
There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and so is and will be through it all. So come up, mate, in the space between all the things unseen and its reckoning. And I know I will never be alone.
And I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between we're sin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us.
There's a simplicity, humility to the way you love me, an honesty, a purity. God, you make it easy. No special words or formulas could ever win you over, for your love is undeserved. Even when I can't see clearly, somehow you still make it easy. Your love's uncomplicated. You love me just the way I am. So I stand before you. I'm totally surrendered, with open hands and open heart. Jesus, have your way in me. Ooh, Jesus, have your way in my brokenness, my loneliness, and the secrets you see, my deepest thoughts, my hidden walls. God, you see right through me. Even when I'm overthinking, somehow you still love me simply. Your love's uncomplicated. You love me just the way I am. So I stand before you. I'm totally surrendered, with open hands and open heart. Jesus, have your way in me. Ooh, Jesus, have your way in me. Jesus, have your way in me. I could sing over and over, I love you, it never grows old. Oh, how could I tell you enough that I love you, Lord? I could sing over and over, I love you, it never grows old. Oh, how could I tell you enough that I love you, Lord? Ooh, no, no. I love you, Lord. Your love's uncomplicated. You love me just the way I am. So I stand before you. I'm totally surrendered, with open hands and open heart. Jesus, have your way in me.
Hey, welcome to Light Church. Welcome to our virtual gathering. We are so excited to have you here today. We are jumping into week 6 of our series, This Is Us. We're looking today at We Will Be a Church That Makes Kings and Queens. This series is all about who has God called us as Light Church to be, as a church, as a community, right here, right now. So I'm excited. It's been amazing so far. And like the last couple of weeks, I got some people helping me to communicate this value today. So it's going to be a really good one. I'm really excited. So for those of you who have missed or maybe just need reminding, we have 7 values at Light Church. Our values are guiding principles. They kind of keep us in line with who God has asked us to be. So if you're taking note, they will pop up on the screen. Our 7 values are this: we will be a church that pursues the heart of God, a church that multiplies and grows and talks with its hands. We will be a church that has a voice of influence, a church that makes kings and queens. We will be a church that expresses its essential creativity, and a church that builds a genuine family. I believe that if we embody these values as a church and as individuals, we will really stay in line with who God is asking us to be. And I really believe these are packed with so much wisdom. They're packed with so much scripture that just point us to the person and work of Jesus and helps us as individuals discover who God has made us to be. So today, like I said, we are going to be jumping into our 5th value. We will be a church that makes kings and queens. Now, as I've been studying for this value has come alive to me. I've proper enjoyed this. So I'm really looking forward to today. But before we jump into this, we're going to look at why, we're going to look at how this is possible, we're going to look at some practical steps we can take, and then we're going to paint that picture at the end. What would this actually look like in our lives and in our lives as a church? But before we go in, I want to just help you understand this phrase in makes kings and queens. Now, this is like a figure of speech. I don't mean literally. I mean, I'm not opposed to making royalty out of Light Church or people that come out of Light Church being royalty. But what I mean by this, kings and queens, these are like people that are secure and grounded. It's this picture of people that really know who they are, that know their place, that aren't looking to the left and right for validation, but are secure and grounded. These are people that are just quality people. People that are known for a really good work ethic. People that carry themselves with a little bit of difference about them. They kind of understand their responsibility. They kind of live their lives in a different way. It's like that there's a bigger purpose going on. This figure of speech, kings and queens, should paint this picture of just real good people. People that are on a mission. People that are like stable. People that are wise, like good counsel. I hope that paints a little bit of a picture. That is what I mean. We will make kings and queens, us as church and us as people. But before we unpack this, let's start right at the beginning. Why should we be a church that makes kings and queens? Why is it important for us to have this value, to keep this close to our heart, that we will make kings and queens? Well, firstly, we want to make kings and queens because we want to demonstrate God's character and God's nature to the world. Did you know that every single one of us is a representative of Jesus? If you call yourself a follower of Jesus, people will look at you way before they will ever look at God. People will watch your life before they start looking at God. Now, there's the odd occasion where people will come to experience God first, but more often than not, people will experience God through someone else or hear about God through someone else. And it's usually the impact of that person on their life that made them consider that there was something more or something bigger. See, we want to be a church that makes kings and queens because we want to demonstrate the nature of our God to the world. So let's look at this. When in 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 16, I'm going to read this in the Message, but this is the Apostle Paul as like a mentor speaking to his mentee, Timothy, and he's basically like passing over some wisdom. And this is what he says. He says, Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners. I'm proof, public sinner number one, of someone who could never have made it apart from sheer mercy. And now he shows me off evidence of his endless patience to those who are right on the edge of trusting him forever. See, what Paul is saying to Timothy is, look, I was the worst of the sinners. I was the mess up. I was the one who was completely off track, not living the life I was supposed to live. But now only through God's grace and mercy can I be the person I am today. And now God shows me off to people. In other words, people see me and they actually see that there's something bigger than me at work here. People look at Paul's life and know that there is a God involved. So I want to encourage you right now. We want to be a church that makes kings and queens because we want to demonstrate God's nature to the world. People are going to watch us and see that there is something different about the way we carry ourselves, that there is something different about who we are. How could that broken group of people be so okay in the craziness of life? There must be something bigger going on. See, and then Paul goes and writes to the church of Ephesus. And he says this, I urge you, so this is in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1. He says, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. So again, if you are a Jesus follower, you have a calling on your life. That calling is to follow Jesus, to live like him. But it's also to be the person that God has designed you to be. We hold this value as a church, that we will be a church that makes kings and queens, because we want to help people become who they really are, to step into this future, step into this calling. So we will actually, we will show the world God's character. Isn't that amazing? People will watch our lives and they will see God. That is why this is a value to us. The second reason, as I've already sort of alluded to, we want to be a church that makes kings and queens because we want to help people step into their future. That is the mission of this church, helping people step into their future through the life-changing message of Jesus. We want to help people find who it is they have been made to be. They've been designed to be in their own lives. We want to help people find that and discover it. In Romans chapter 12, verse 6, again in the Message version, Paul writes this, let's just go ahead and be what we were made to be, without enviously or pridefully comparing ourselves with each other or trying to be something that we aren't. See, we want to be a church that makes kings and queens because we are not designed to look at other people and see who are they made to be and how can I be like that, or, what's that person been called to do? I kind of like that, but knowing who we are, grounded and secure in what God has placed on our lives, we will be a church that facilitates and empowers. And we need to help people discover who it is they are. That picture of the kings and queens, rooted, secure, confident in who they are, confident in their identity. That is why this is a value to us. It is why we are going to commit to creating environments and being people and being a church that create and make kings and queens. We want people to be who they've been made to be. And thirdly, we want to be a church that makes kings and queens because we want to build and empower the next generation. We want to build and empower the next generation. See, I feel like church in general, like capital C church, over many years has done a very bad job of empowering young people. Empowering like the next generation of people. I just feel like so often the church tells young people what they can't do. It tells young people what they aren't. Tells young people that they can't do this, they shouldn't be that. Tells young people that they missed the mark and they should be more quiet and it just squishes young people down. I want to read out a passage or a little verse, and it doesn't sound like it fits into this, but it really spoke to me. This is Proverbs 16, verse 24, and it says this: "Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. See, the church for so long has done such a bad job of empowering the next generation, of bringing young people into a nurturing, healthy church environment. That will not happen here. We will be a church that wants to empower and build the next generation. Our ceiling should be the next generation's floor. We should not say to young people, oh, you'll have to fight the same battles as we did because then it's like life skills, or then, we turned out all right, so you have to fight them now. Wouldn't it be a tragedy if our kids are still fighting the same battles that we are fighting? Now, that's not happening here. We will fight battles so our kids don't have to. They'll have their own battles to fight. They'll have their own societal things to figure out. But we will fight the battles in our generation so that we can prepare a way for the next generation. That is going to be a value of Light Church. We will be a church that makes kings and queens. We will set the next generation up to lead into the future. We will not hold them back. We will not clip their wings. We will send them into the future. We will pray for them. We will release them, equip them, empower them. We will correct and challenge them when it's needed. But like that proverb said, gracious words are like a honeycomb. Let's create a safe, gracious environment for young people to know who they are and be rooted in who they've been made to be. See, we want to be a church that makes kings and queens because that is what the church should be. It should be a trophy of God's grace. People should look at the church and be like, how is that group of broken people doing what they do? See, God can take the most messed up, broken story and turn it into a story of hope and restoration. The church is the visible image of God. It is the picture of what the kingdom looks like on earth. See, our church should be a demonstration of God's glory, His provision, His grace, and His character. The world should be able to look at Light Church and know that there is something bigger going on, that knows that there is just something different about the way we hold ourselves. Light Church will be a vibrant alternative for the way people can live their lives because we point to someone bigger than just ourselves.
So I think when people are like on their own, like as individuals, they don't always know their potential. They can't always see it. And I think to get an outsider's perspective on that as a friend or just as someone in the same church or just even someone you work with, to be able to pull out the potential in people is so important. Like, when you're living life on your own, you don't always know what God's got for you and you can't always see it. But to get another perspective on that and for people to encourage people in that is so important. Especially as the kids leader, I think it's so important to build up the next generation and bring out the best in people.
Yeah, so it's important for people to encourage people to find their purpose, because it's like that verse in Corinthians about how the church is a body and we've all got our roles in that. So in my head, I think if the hands have got their purpose, but the feet don't, we're not going anywhere. And if the feet have got the purpose, but the hands don't, we're not picking anything up. So it's when we see people without their purpose or without knowing their purpose, we've got to make sure they know it, because as a church, we got to be moving forward.
I think it's really important to encourage people to know what's inside, what God's put inside them, because from an individual perspective, that person might not see what you see in them, and they might have desires in them that God's put in there, but they don't know what to do with it, they don't know what it means. And if you get alongside that person and you can spot that and encourage them, then that really helps bring that out in them. And I think we're all made uniquely. We all have a different purpose that God has for us, and we're meant to do it together, we're meant to be community. And so to encourage them to do that means that they feel a part of something bigger.
Okay, so we've looked at why we need to hold this as a value for us as a church, why we need to hold this as a value for us as individuals. Let's look at some of the groundwork. If we want to be a church that makes kings and queens, this is like the foundation of this. Here are some little steps, some things we need to make sure we have in place if we want to hold this as a value. So the first thing, we need to be secure in our identity and our faith. We need to be secure in our identity and our faith. We need to know who we are. Not looking to the left or right thinking, who have they been made to be? What's that church been called to do? What's that group been called to do? We need to just fix our eyes on God and say, who have you made us to be? That's why this series is so important. Not who has God made them to be, who has God called us to be? That is what we will go off. So we need to understand who we are. We need to be secure in our identity. Maybe some of you this morning are thinking like, yeah, maybe that's not something I'm very good at. You might be older and you might even still struggle with understanding who God has made you to be. I want to encourage you, if we want to be people that make kings and queens, if we want to be a church that makes kings and queens, we need to know who we are and what we've been called to do. And then we also need to know whose we are. So not just who we are and who we are in ourselves, but whose we are. You might think, what does that mean? I don't belong to anyone. Let me encourage you this morning, every single one of us belongs to someone or something. That might be money, that might be reputation, job, success, a relationship, an addiction. Some of you belong to some things that you don't even realize. What do I mean by belong to? It's the thing that you stand under to get your protection, your covering. It influences your decision making. It kind of helps guide your life positively or negatively in some cases. Now, if you are a follower of Jesus, you need to understand that you belong to God. You have been drafted into His family. You have been drafted into His protection and His covering. If you said, yes, I want to turn away from my life of sin and follow Jesus, you belong to Jesus. So if we want to be a church that makes kings and queens, we need to understand who we are and whose we are. Secondly, we need to be a church that rejects mediocrity. If we want to be a church that makes kings and queens, we have to reject mediocrity. Let me just touch on this church-wise for just a second. I feel like I've watched the church over the last couple of years in general, not just our church, but general church. Since I was a kid, I've been in church and I've seen this unfold. People seem to peel off the sticker of mediocrity, place on the sticker of spirituality. It's like we offer God things that just aren't very good. And we say, oh, it's not about the physical, it's all about the spiritual. And I'm like, what? I look through the Bible and I see people honoring God with their everything, giving God their best. Since when was it okay to offer God just an all right something just because we can't be bothered? Not in this church. We will reject mediocrity. We want to give God our best. Some of you might be saying, well, Dan, it's all I've got. Well, let me encourage you. I'm not saying we need to hit perfection, but we need to strive for excellence. Whatever you have, just take it and give it to God. Give Him your best. We need to, if we want to be a church that makes kings and queens, we need to reject mediocrity. A king and queen, this grounded, rooted, secure quality, just known for just being a good, solid person to have around. Kings and queens are people you want working in your business, people that you want your kids hanging around with, people that you want on the school boards and in the local police. And kings and queens are these people of prominence, not in terms of position, but in terms of character. We need to reject mediocrity. We cannot be okay with things just being average when they could be better. Let's be a church that makes kings and queens by rejecting mediocrity, especially in what we give to God. Okay, so be secure in your identity and your faith. We need to reject mediocrity. And third, cultivate a culture of feedback. Cultivate a culture of feedback. Be open and teachable. If we want to make kings and queens, we need to be open. Sometimes we will miss the mark. We need to be okay at saying, you know what, I screwed up. Yep, feed into me. Help me be better. Help me not make that mistake again. Listen to this in Proverbs 19 verses 20 in the New Living Translation. It says this, get all the advice and instruction that you can, so you will be wise for the rest of your life. In other words, soak up all the wisdom and instruction you can. Learn from anyone and take and be teachable. Be humble and teachable. Some of you in your life think, yeah, I want to be known as someone that makes kings and queens, but actually you just can't take any feedback. Or you want to be a person that makes kings and queens, but you never give any feedback. This church, in our church, in this community, we need to have a culture of feedback. We need to have healthy feedback from all directions. We need to be able to give feedback and correct and challenge, and you need to be able to feed into things and share your heart, and we all need to be teachable. If we want to make kings and queens, we need to cultivate a culture of feedback. I love that proverb. Get all the advice and instruction you can so that you will be wise for the rest of your life. So be secure in your identity and faith, reject mediocrity, cultivate a culture of feedback, and finally, always choose to add value to others. Always choose to add value to others. The funny thing about adding value to people is that you think you are just giving out all the time, but actually adding value to other people really builds you up. Adding value to other people really encourages and strengthens you. See, I mean not just adding value of thinking in the moment, how can I be nice to someone? I mean intentional, adding value to people in every interaction, every meeting, whether it's meeting a friend for coffee, whether it's someone you bump into, whether it's a business meeting, whether it's your family. Let's be people that intentionally add value to other people. Intentionally, I mean sit maybe the night before, sit before your meeting, before your interaction. Think, how can I add value to this person? How can my life bring value to these people? And actually through that selfless act of adding value to others, you will find that people will be attracted to you and that you will be built up as well. It's often said that you attract what it is you are. So if we want to be people that make kings and queens, we need to be kings and queens ourselves. We need to choose to add value to others, and we too will find ourselves built up. So let's commit together to rejecting mediocrity, to grounding ourselves in Jesus, to growing together, and always choosing to add value to others.
So for the past 2 years, I've been doing a degree, and I remember just talking to someone and just being like, what is your dream? What does your future look like? And for me, midwifery's always been a dream of mine, and it's not the degree I've been doing. It's a hard course to get onto, and I was worried that I wouldn't do it. I'd already applied for it when I first came out of college, and I didn't get on. So it was kind of it was always a dream, but it wasn't it couldn't have been a reality kind of thing. I didn't know whether to do it or not. And yeah, the people I spoke to that were just yeah, go for it. What have you got to lose? You'd be an amazing midwife. And it just gave me such a peace being able to talk to people and them encouraging me in that decision as well. And so without talking to these people and them encouraging me, I wouldn't be starting my journey to become a midwife in September.
So way back in the day when we were doing the Friday night sort of kids ministry epic, we were just sort of starting off, and Dan and Holly were running it at the time, and they sort of I guess they must have just seen my ideas, and they saw my potential and they thought, yeah, go on, let's give Will a bit of freedom here to come up with some crazy stuff for this kids ministry and to let stuff go a bit crazy. And it made me realize my purpose. It made me realize my passion for young people, my passion for helping young people and doing it in a fun way and just helping young people, ironically, sort of speaking about this, reach their potential. It made me feel like I was seen and like who I was needed and valued, and that I had a purpose, that I had something to bring and I had something to share, and I had an impact on people as well, which was probably one of the most important things.
I've been at this church now all my life, and I think part of the reason for that is it's felt like family, and people have got alongside me and encouraged me and spotted things in me that maybe I haven't. So, for example, they've said, oh wow, even as a child, I was gravitated towards younger children and helping younger children, and people in the church would spot that and say, wow, little children gravitate towards you. Like, how would you feel about helping us out in the Sunday school, even at a younger age? I felt part of the church already at that stage, and it just makes you feel valued and appreciated and part of a bigger picture.
Amazing. So we looked at why we need to hold this as a value. Why is it important that we as a church make kings and queens? We've looked at how we can lay the foundation for this to happen for us as a church and us as individuals. Now let's look at some practical steps. What does this physically look like? How can we actually embody this value on a church level and an individual level? So let's look at on a church level. This looks like our youth and our kids ministries. It looks like investing in the next generation. It looks like creating a nurturing environment for young people and children to know who they are, to grow up in an environment where they are championed, where they are protected. That means creating safe environments. It means being intentional about championing our young people, not talking down to young people. In fact, not talking down to anyone. This looks like an environment that builds people up and champions people into what they have been made to do. This looks like the training in teams that we have at church. We will be intentional about helping people skill themselves, whether that's through training or development or programs or whatever it is. In our teams, we will help train people to be better at what they do. This looks like our CAP and our life mentoring. Now this is exciting for me. Like, our CAP stuff helps people manage their money better, helps people to get out of debt so that they can actually live a freer life. Actually helps people so they aren't caged. You know when I said we all belong to something? That is one of those things that just really owns people and stops people becoming who God has designed them to be. It's a real issue, especially in our community. Our CAP ministry is so important. This looks like life mentoring, helping people to learn how to cook, how to clean, how to live a more holistic life, things that they maybe never learned growing up. It looks like being actually active and engaged in people's lives and championing them in areas, not just in their faith. It starts with their faith. We have to obviously champion people in their faith, but it has to be bigger than just faith. It has to seep into every area of people's lives, and we as a church want to be intentional about helping people in those areas. This looks like our leadership. As a church, as an institution or an organization, the way we set ourselves up has to actually bring people through, train people, give people opportunity, create an environment of possibility where people can actually try things that maybe they've never tried before. You look in society and you see these huge singers that are on stages all over the world, and so many of them got their start in the church. Why? Because the church is just an amazing place for people to learn and grow. Light Church will be intentional. It will be very intentional about giving people opportunity to do things, not just saying, hey, serve this ministry or serve this, but what has God put in you and how can we empower and equip you in your sphere of life? It looks like a church that is wise, that has this pursuit of excellence. It looks like a church that is well trained, that is intentional about discipleship, that doesn't just let people sit on the surface level, but people that have depth, that know who they are, personal development, spiritual gifts, personality stuff, understanding more about who we are as people. we will be intentional about helping people discover who God has made them to be. That excites me. That's a church I want to be part of. That's a church that is going to create people that have substance and quality. People that will be known. Like I said, you're going to want these people involved in your businesses. You're going to want these people as employees, or you're going to want these people at the school gates, or you're going to want these people on sports teams. Wouldn't that be amazing if Light Church was actually a symbol of, yeah, those are good people. I don't know what it is about them, but there's something about them. Those are good people. That is what I feel God has called us to be a people, to be a church that makes kings and queens. So those are some ways that it would look physically in the church. Investing in people, training people, creating ways for people to discover who they are on a real practical level. But right now, on an individual level, here are some ways that you can embody this value right now. As soon as you leave this gathering, these are some things that you can put into place. Look for someone to encourage and inspire. Like I said, choose to add value to people. Look for someone that you, in your life right now, that you can think, you know what, they're about to make a real big move here or take a big step. I'm just going to encourage them and inspire them. I'm going to commit to every couple of days sending them a message. Hey, thinking of you, praying for you. In fact, hey, is there anything I can do to help out? Just support and encourage and inspire people in your world right now. Maybe there's someone that's come to your mind. I encourage you, write their name down. This looks like, as an individual right now, give your best in every opportunity that you have going on in your life right now. Maybe some of you are in jobs that you just find like, this is a dead-end job, I'm waiting for my break, or I'm waiting to move. Like we read, work as though you are working for God, not for human masters, not for your boss. Work for God, and I promise you, when you change that perspective, you will actually find your life increases in so many ways. I'm not talking, that's not a formula, that's just a promise. If you commit to serving God, your life increases in so many different ways. This looks like, look for a mentor in your own life, or be a mentor for someone. Approach someone and say, hey, I feel like we're quite similar on this level, and I think I could maybe help you. If this is something you'd be interested in, I'd love to maybe meet you once a month and we can talk through. If you're a business leader and you see some people wanting to start a business, I encourage you, go invite them for a coffee. Because so often when a young person or even someone that just sees someone that's doing what they want to do, it can be intimidating sometimes. Let's choose to be people that are on the lookout for people to invest in. Maybe it's someone that you know is stepping into a job that you already do. Go put your arm around them and say, hey, let me show you the ropes. If you ever need any help, I'm here for you. We need to be a church that invests in people. That is how we will make kings and queens. But you individually will be known as a king or queen maker in your life if you're constantly on the lookout for people to invest in and encourage and empower. So also be intentional about praying for people. So helping people, encouraging people, inspiring people, but in your own time, pray for them. Pray that God will protect them. Pray that God would keep his hand on them. Pray that God would continue to lead and guide people. Pray that people would continually search for God in whatever they do. Cover everything they do in prayer. That means so much to people, but it changes so much. Prayer is a powerful tool that we need to absolutely utilize when it comes to making kings and queens. And finally, support those in your circle. If you know people are stepping out and are moving house, offer to lend a hand. Offer to actually step into people's worlds and help. Maybe your friend's starting a business. Go buy whatever it is they're selling. You might not even need it, but just go and support. Be a person that builds up those around you. Like I said, add value to others. Your greatest fruit should be seen in other people. We want it always to be seen in ourselves. Oh yeah, I'm amazing, I do this, I do that. Nah, people should be able to look at the people that you have encouraged and inspired and been like, wow, they would never have been able to do that if it wasn't for their input. Your greatest fruit should be seen on other people. Hey, the world is waiting for grounded, secure people to call it into its future. Let's make sure we play our part. Let's be king and queen makers. But let's also decide that we ourselves are going to commit to being people of substance, people that are known as kings and queens in whatever we do.
I think it's so important to believe in others. There's people that have been brought up without knowing that they've got potential and without knowing their worth and what they're actually put on this earth to do. And I think as Christians and as the church, we should be people there to encourage, like, especially the younger generation, but also people like the older generation. Like, they've grown up their whole lives without having people there to encourage them and place their value on them. And I think as Christians, that's what we're called to do, because that's what Jesus did. It's so easy to say it, but I've seen it countless times at church, people coming in from like feeling so broken and so lost and empty, and just changing completely because they've been loved and they've been encouraged. As the church, that's what we should be living to do, is encouraging the next generation especially, and like building them up and allowing them to live in the potential that God's got for them.
It's really important to believe in people, but I think at the same time it's really hard to believe in people, because I think we look at the world and we look at people especially through our eyes and not through the eyes of God. So we don't really see sometimes what people have to bring and what people have to share. So I think we got to look past all their negatives and all the things that are, I guess, away from their potential, and try and pick out the things that they can lead to their potential, to then bring it to them, to bring it forward, and to see their true self in their mess. When we believe in people and we give them, or we sort of highlight their potential, it makes them I hope it makes them see it themselves, and it makes them know that they can do things.
So I think believing in someone can really change their life, because they may have many self-doubts, and they may just function day to day just in their usual routines and feeling that they're not valued and they aren't good enough. But as you invest and tell them truth and invest truth into their lives, hopefully they'll see that, and then they'll be able to move forward and do things that they wouldn't usually do, and feel part of and belong to something greater, and to be part of a family, and that might be something that they've not experienced.
Hey, it's been so good so far. Thanks to all those people who've been involved in speaking into this gathering. I've absolutely loved it. So we've looked at why we need to hold this as a value. We've looked at how we can lay the foundation for this to be a value in our life. And we've looked at some, like, how we can put it into practice, some practical steps that we can take, both as a church and as individuals. But let me paint the picture for you. Let me show you what it would look like if we embodied this value. So let me read this out. It would look like a church that builds, nurtures, and champions the future placed within every person by radically loving and valuing all people. This would look like a church that strives for excellence and actively rejects mediocrity. A church that always believes in the next generation and that cultivates environments for possibility and growth. This church will be known for producing kings and queens in every circle of life. I don't know about you, but I want to be part of that church. In fact, I'm just so glad that God has called us to this value in Light Church. I'm so honored that I get to be part of this church, and you should as well. God is doing something special. If we can embody this value, I really think people will approach the church and see something different. I'm not saying this is a perception game. This is not about furthering a brand of the church. This is about putting God on display. Excellence is not optional anymore. We will be a people that strive for excellence in everything we do as a church, everything that we set up, all of our ministries, the way that we present ourselves, our creativity, the way that we do our music, the way that we do our community work. It has to be to a standard of excellence, not perfection, but we will settle for excellence. It excites me, this. I absolutely love this value. A church that believes in the next generation. It is so important. Let's get out of that view that young people are just at the side and one day they'll have their day. See, the young people are not just the church of the future, they are the church of now. We will be a church that is multi-generational. Kings and queens will come out of this church. It is a value that God has called us to. It excites me by radically loving and valuing all people. That would change a whole lot. No longer will church just think, how can you serve our vision? How can you serve our teams? And instead, what has God placed inside of you, and how can we help you become who God has made you to be? Why did it ever get confused? When did people start serving the church before the church served others? Like, this is the whole call of the church. I'm not saying the church is going to fulfill your agenda. Some of you are thinking, oh, sick, just a group of people to do what I want. That's not what this is. This is you coming under the church. It's this strange, like, mutual paradox, or this mutual relationship where when you come under the church and when you serve the church serves you and helps empower you and equip you to be who you have been called to be. See, you need to come under the church. Align yourself with the church. Now, I'm not saying like put church in the place of God. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that when we as a body come together and value what it is God is doing here, we will then be equipped and empowered to be who we have been called to be. So let's read this statement again, but let me give it to you in words that you can take. Again, this is the stuff you stick on your mirror in the morning and say, that's the type of person I want to be. So, we will be people that build, nurture, and champion the future placed within every person by radically loving and valuing all people. We will always strive for excellence and actively reject mediocrity. We will be a people that always believes in the next generation and people that cultivate environments for possibility and for growth. We will be people known for producing kings and queens from those within our world. We will be known as people that create kings and queens. Our greatest fruit should be seen on others. This is such a big call for us today, but maybe you're sat here listening this morning and you're thinking, Dan, you don't know me. You don't know my life. You don't know how many times I've screwed up. You don't know what I've been through. You say that we're called to be kings and queens. We're called to be significant. We're called to live against this, according to this purpose that's within us, this future, but you don't know how far gone I am. You don't know what I've done. I'm just too far gone to be called a king or a queen, or to be known as someone of substance, or I don't know, maybe you've always wanted that person to come alongside you and champion you and encourage you and help you really discover who you are. Help you live out who you know you are. Not just live out all what everyone else is telling you to do. Live out according to what God has placed in your life. See, well, I have some good news for you today. I have a verse, one of my favorite verses, and this should bring you so much encouragement. Listen to this. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21 says this. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. This is basically saying this. How do we become people of substance that are significant? People that are known as quality, people that are known to be able to ride out the harshest circumstances in our lives, is that Jesus sent himself. God sent himself to this earth to put on skin and bone, to become the brokenness and sin in our lives. You and I, all the times we sin and separate ourselves from God, all the times we fall short, all the times we miss the mark, Jesus became that sin for you and I, so that we could actually take the righteousness of God and become that. Another way this is said is God treated his son like a slave, so he could treat the slaves like his son. God wants to take you into a place of wholeness and righteousness, not because of anything you could do, but because of everything he already did on that cross. He hung on that cross for your sin and for your shame. He lay in a tomb for 3 days, and then he rose again from the grave, so that you could have life and forgiveness and freedom and wholeness. You might ask the question, well, how can God do that for me? I'm so broken. That's exactly why he did it for you. He took on your brokenness and he traded you for his wholeness. You might think, I want some of that. I want to feel that forgiveness and that wholeness in my own life. Well, all you got to do is turn away from your sin. Say, I don't want to live that life anymore. It never fulfilled me anyway. I just want to turn from that and take on this life of significance and wholeness by stepping into a relationship with Jesus. You just take your life and say, Jesus, I give you all that I've got. I don't leave anything else behind. I fully turn away from what I was doing and I give you all of me. Take my life, take my future. I promise you this morning that your life will just feel so full. Life may not change a whole lot in some senses, where you might look around and think nothing has changed, but within you, everything has changed. I'm praying for you this morning. This is the best decision you have ever made. And maybe you're sat there this morning, you've been a Christian for a long time. You've journeyed with God and you've just got to this place where maybe your life has just settled and become a little bit stagnant. Today is the day you've just decided, you know what, I want to be known as someone who invests in others. Maybe you're a little bit older and you think, you know what, I have so much wisdom and experience and stuff that God has taught me. I want to pass this on to someone. I want my fruit to be seen in other people. That decision is yours to make today. To draw that line in the sand and say, you know what, I want to choose to be a person that is known for making kings and queens in my life. So, God has given all of us the opportunity to be right with Him, to be elevated out of the place we were in because Jesus went down to the place that we were, our brokenness, He sunk down to the level that we were in to lift us up. That is all of us, no matter who you are. That is available for you and I this morning. That should encourage us. And that is why we as a church have this value that we will be a church that makes kings and queens, because we have been changed from the inside out and we want people to experience that very same thing also. Let me pray. Father God, I want to thank you for who you are. I want to thank you for the life we have available to live because of all that you did on the cross for us. May we as a church be known as a church that makes kings and queens, that people of substance and quality, people that are secure in their identity and their faith, come out of this church. People that are known by the world as people that actually do what they say they're going to do. People that actually come through, that live the life that you have called us to live. God, I pray for all those people that said yes to you for the very first time today. I pray that you would flood their life with so much wholeness and significance and peace, and just your grace would just fill them up from the inside out. God, we thank you for this decision they made. May they never, ever look back. Thank you for new life. Thank you for your presence in the home of every single person watching this gathering right now. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thanks to all those people that have been part of today. We love you. This series is going off. It's been so good. And we've got a couple more weeks left. But this is us.
What a morning! It has been incredible. I absolutely love this value, makes kings and queens, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. I'm so excited for the next couple of weeks coming up.
Yeah, and thank you to all of those who were involved this morning. You guys made it so special, and all the people who have been involved so far, you guys have really brought these values to life. I'm just excited for the next couple of weeks as well. It's going to be an amazing series. But if today was your very, very first time at Light Church, or you've been coming for a little bit and you really want to get plugged in, take that next step. Head to light.church/connect and you can fill out a connect form. We can get you details. We can get you plugged into a life group. We can get you plugged into all sorts of different people and things that are going on. But also, life is not supposed to be lived alone. So make sure you get involved, get connected. We can help you do it. light.church/connect.
Yeah, maybe you've already connected with us, but you're not part of a life group yet, and you really want to be like, I need to be part of one of these. You do. So email us at hello@light.church so we can make that happen. And do not forget to use light.church/prayer throughout the week, 24/7. It's available for you to submit your prayer requests so we can get the prayer team praying for them.
Also, if you are not already plugged into our social media, I want to encourage you to get connected. We are on Instagram, so give us a follow, lightchurch_, or you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, whatever that is. We are obviously on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel, like this video right now, so that you can make sure that you never miss a single thing that happens at Light Church. So we are excited for all that is coming. Remember, 4th of July, keep that in your mind. That is going to be our first in-person gathering. We are looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be so good.
But that is everything from us this morning, unless I've missed anything.
No, that's everything.
All good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Our virtual gatherings would not be the same without you here. So thanks for being a part of it. We love you, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
Bye.
See ya.